Okay, it looks like I'm live. Hopefully everything's working. Got a funny thing on my screen. So I'm just going to wait for a few people to join and then we'll begin. And I apologize for the lateness because I know that there is some who may not be able to get joining at this hour, but what do? I had a split migraine today and thank God it's gone, so yay. Anyway, hello to everyone who's starting to join now. There is a bit of a delay because I'm actually going through the app itself. I don't know why I've got this event log thing showing. I don't want to see that. That's annoying. Okay, can't get rid of it. Doesn't want to go. All right, so tonight's topic, which should have been last week's topic, is about angels and guides and how they work in our lives, how they work with us. So firstly, what their purpose is not to make everything easy for you. A lot of people get this idea that first and foremost that, you know, if you have a problem, they're just going to fix it all up for you. If you have, you know, it's sort of like that's not how it works. Their role is to be there with you, to walk beside you, to be a part of your effort in changing your circumstances and the world, if you want to put it that way. Nothing can, I mean, it's sort of like saying a prayer. You know, there's so many people that say, oh, I'll pray for you and stuff like that. They just put it in a comment and that's it. They don't do nothing. They don't even pray. It's just a way of, well, you know, I've got to say something. And what you're doing effectively by doing something like that, if you've got no intention of truly praying and asking for angels to step into this person's life and change and help them in changing the situation that they're in, the mess that they're in, what you're doing is setting on your own path a block. And you are like saying, okay, well, when it comes time for me to have some help, and I call on the angels and I'm not getting any assistance with what I'm doing and I'm doing everything right and everything like that, you're going to be sitting there wondering why nothing's happening, why nothing's changing for you. And it's because it's called karma. So remember that next time you say on someone's post, as an example, that, you know, I'm going to pray for you and stuff like that. But even like a 1-second prayer isn't prayer. Prayer is truly grounding yourself, removing your mind off everything in your surroundings that's going on in your life and truly focusing on that individual. That's true prayer. When you are detaching your own me and putting the attention on that person who's really needing some help at this time. So just remember, unless you're really going to sincerely pray for that person, never say to a person you're going to pray for them. So this is really important. I need to stress first and foremost. Now, I've had a lot of people say to me, why do, you know, like why would God and why would the angels and stuff like that allow animal abusers and all this, you know, ice melting in the Antarctic and whatever? Why don't they step in and stop it? Well, that's a very easy question. What have we done to stop it? We are the influence behind it. If a human is not going to step up and take accountability, then I'm afraid neither will those on the other side. Now, we can change all of our circumstances, and a lot of the time it's because we are just too lazy to change our circumstances. It's like, well, it's going to make, you know, more of an effort on my part if I want to change something. And so the angels and guides, they're there with you. They are always there with you. From the moment you took your first breath in this world, they're around you. And that's the beauty of them. They are always there as support to the individual that they are looking after. Now, there are many, many angels. We can have angels that have walked in our own lives who are now on the other side, our loved ones, for example. We can have angels who have never been in a physical form. They are just pure energy, light energy. And then we've got the archangels, all 7 of them, and they all have like a little role to play, but they all seem to have like a hierarchy, if you want to put it that way, on being able to, okay, well, look, this person's really sincere. I can see from their heart. And this is what you don't understand. They can see our heart. They can see not so much our heart beating kind of thing, but our sincerity, our vibration around us completely it changes, it transforms, it gives off different kinds of colors in our energy field that are telling angels, God, and our guides if we are sincere or not. If we're not really sincere, and we're just asking for something because we're too damn lazy to get off our own butts and do something about it, then they can see that. So always ask from the heart and remove the me, remove the I, that I want, I need, that type of thing. So what you should be saying is, I give thanks that you provide what is designed best for my path, what is designed best for my circumstances right now, in order for me to change them. Help me to let go of this problem. Help me to take our mental hands off this situation that's troubling us so that we can move forward. And some of the angels, they can help you do that. Other things that angels can help you with is remembering where things are. Okay, we've got one that's showing. I don't know whether you saw the light go on. I just noticed it, so it's probably gone on before, I don't know, but their energy is around. Now I'm just going to have a look here. Hello. Thank you for joining. Great to see people online. And as I said earlier, I'm sorry for the inconvenience last week. I had no internet. It seems like when there's a rain, my cables just get flooded or something. It's like doesn't want to do it anyway, so I had no internet. Now, getting back to guides, for example, let's start with guides. Guides are only there for the individual. You will never have anyone be able to say to you, your guide's name is Zachiel or Rupus or whatever. You will never be able to tell who the other person's guide is. They will not communicate with anyone being on this earth except you. That's the beauty of our guides. We can turn to our guides for advice. Like Sewella, she is my guide, who's been with me from the time that I can remember. I remember seeing her in the distance, just standing off watching me, and I could physically see her. And of course, from that, it was like, I don't know why I just didn't go up and ask who she was, because it was like she was always watching over me kind of thing, and I felt comfortable. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel that she was going to do anything. I didn't think she was going to kidnap me from school or anything like that. But she would actually just watch over me. If I was about to do something, and this is another thing, when I was a kid, I almost burnt the house down. I don't know what it was. I was drawn to, like the smell of the sulfur from the matches. My mother used to smoke, and that smell, when she'd light that match, it was like, oh, that smell was so nice. And so, of course, I decided to play with matches. But what I did, and this is what I mean, protection. I sat in our wardrobe And because I didn't want anyone to see me, there was like a plastic, I wouldn't say plastic, remember those sort of like, I don't know, back in the 70s, they had like those jackets that were like a plasticky kind of vinyl, if you want to put it that way, but really shiny. And it's probably back in fashion now, but we had that in the wardrobe. And I remember holding the match under it and just watching the pretty colors of the plastic melting. It was like going like blues. It was, you know, hues, like very, very soft colors and everything like that. And I thought, wow, this is so pretty. Now, I was sitting in a contained area. Then I tried moving like another match, lit it, put that over near something else, and it was fascinating. It wasn't like I was a vindictive child. I wasn't the kind of child that was cruel to anything. It was just the curiosity. I wanted to understand at a very early age, and I think I may have been about probably 4 or 5. That's how far back I'm going. And I was otherwise a very quiet child, but I loved my family. Anyway, after I got out of the wardrobe, I shut the door, which obviously contained the flames and things that were still burning to my, you know, I wasn't aware they were still burning, but it was the curiosity. I remember walking into the lounge room, my grandmother saying, I feel she's around me, saying, what have you been up to? And I said, I've been a good girl, I've been asleep. And she said, let me smell your fingers. And I said, no. She said, let me smell your fingers. And she smelt them and she said, anyone lost a packet of matches? I can smell sulfur on her fingers. And I was like, not me. They weren't my hands, but they were. The things you think you can get away with as a kid. So anyway, it ended up, they were looking through the house, but they thought, well, she said she was in the bedroom having a sleep, so we'll go in there. As soon as my uncle opened up the wardrobe, the flames just shot out. And I was like terrified. Now, thinking of my situation, if I was not protected, I could have been setting myself on fire. The plastic was literally dripping in front of my eyes and hitting where the things that were like there were shoes at the bottom of the cupboard, and I think my mother had some presents wrapped or something like that, and that could have gone up with me in it. And that's what I'm talking about. So many close calls in our life that we probably, if we think back, we shouldn't be here. And so in circumstances like that, this is a sign of having protection around you, guides and angels and everything like that. Yeah, I know the lights keep going on and off. They're telling me that they're here. That's what I mean. This room has become, it's like it's transferred to, from the active room to here. So if you saw the video, I had to record what was coming through the security monitor. Anyway, going back to that, that's protection. That's angels. That's guides. They're always around you, watching over you. I guarantee many of you watching this video should not be here if you weren't having protection. Now, we are always given signs as well from our angels and our guides, and we choose to ignore them so many times. Think about those gut feelings that you've had, those instincts that, I think they're doing something they shouldn't. I think I'm being taken for a ride here. I think, that this person is just, a hypochondriac. Whatever it is, it's like you're given the tools, and you don't have to be a psychic or a medium to use them. Every single person on earth everyone, from the second they take their first breath, has that protection and guidance around them. Even a child who has never been taught about things, and even animals, for example. A very good example of that is, think about the natural fear that an animal might have in the wild for certain things. Now, what has taught that animal as a newborn that this is danger? There is protection around these. And even animals have angels. Even animals have guides. There are the higher archangels that also watch over animals and people. So they're not there like, because there's only 7 of the archangels, but I'm told by Sewella there are more. But their purpose is just to purely be 2IC, if you want to put it like that. They do pretty much all on a one level the same kind of thing. However, it's depending on who you call out to. Now, we also then, we look at the archangels, we look at the angels, we look at our loved ones and everything, but we've also got the saints. And I'm not talking about all saints, I'm talking about the saints. Now, there are people who have been dug up years later and everything is immaculate. They've got immaculate, they've got the immaculate heart, they've got the immaculate liver. It's soft, it's pliable. And they have not been through that process of, incredible embalming that would keep a preservation like that. But these things are, signs that we're all given that there is still faith in this world, and there are still miracles that occur. So many people think miracles only occurred in days of the Bible, or in days of the Quran, or whichever your culture is, because in the end there is only one higher being that we will never see until and then perhaps not even then after we pass over, because God is omnipresent. If you want to use the term God, there are some people who don't. I prefer to use the word God. And with the spiritual energy that is around us every single day, every single minute, right now, you have angels right with you. Every single one of you has angels there. They're watching over you. They see what's going on in your life and they pity you as well. So don't need pity from other people. You've got pity from those that really do see what you're going through. If you are going through something traumatic, they see it. But the thing is, their hands are tied. And the person that's tying them is you. You're the one who is stopping them from really stepping in and helping you change your situation. And that's because you're too busy worrying about it, worrying about if it's going to change, because you've taken away the trust. And that's all that's needed. Trust and faith is all you need to put in them for them to do something in your life that is worth your highest good. Now, with the way that they work in our lives, as I mentioned, you might get those little signs that are saying to you, there's a detour ahead. Or something's telling me don't go down this road. Or at the last minute, you're about to go somewhere and someone rings you. And you think, oh, bugger me, I'm just about to go out the door. They like to talk. So think of it this way, your angels and your guides and your loved ones on the other side, they know who's going to get you to be held up. And sometimes it's for your best. Those who say, look, I can't talk, I've got to go, their whole day seems to fall backwards. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that when you're saying, look, I can't talk, I'm in a rush, I've got to go, you seem to be in a panic. Even though it was a second, you think that second's going to make any difference along your journey? It's not. What's happening is you are being human. You are removing the faith in that everything's going to be okay. I can distinctly remember a time I had to go into the city And driving, I thought, I'm going to drive. And it was pouring because I thought I'm not going to take a bus, because if I take the bus, I'm going to have to wait for people to get on and off. And, not a bus person, not a public transport person when I've got a car that's perfectly okay to get me from A to B. So I thought, I'm taking the car. But I'm also going to trust that with all this rain and everything, as hyped up as it is in the city, I'm going to have a car space waiting for me right at the door. So I don't have far to walk. And this was a time when I was going through like different specialists for my knee and everything like that. So I went through a lot of, poking and prodding and what's wrong with your knee? And I said, look, it's obvious, but they didn't listen. They didn't want to listen to me, who was the one going through all the pain. So anyway, I had that resistance step in. No, you're not going to have his car space. It's impossible. Look how much traffic there is. It's bumper to bumper. Oh, why didn't I just take the bus? And then I stopped myself and I thought, what am I manifesting for myself right now? My attitude is going to create a problem. Snap out of it, Karen. So I just kept giving thanks. Guides, spirit guides, angels, I give thanks you have created a space for me. I cannot lose it under grace in a perfect way. This space is mine by divine right. I just kept reinforcing it. I kept visualizing that I'm pulling up and there is this space available for me to just slide in. And I thought, keep doing it, keep doing it. I kept motivating, I kept reinforcing it. Every doubt, get out, get out. I don't want to listen to that negative side. I don't want to listen to it. And that's how it was in the car. Every time I had this doubt, I would literally yell out. If anyone heard me, they'd probably lock me up. I'd say, stop. You don't belong to me. You are doubt. You are removed from my life completely. Get away from me. I give thanks. My angels are working at my highest purpose. That space is mine. Don't mess with Karen. That space is mine. So, as it turns out, I get into this street and the cars are forever, like along that road. I'm thinking, oh, shoot, doubt, creeping in. I went, no, I give thanks. Guides be with me. Help that space be available. I give thanks it's available outside of XYZ, blah, blah, blah. No kidding. As soon as I got around the corner, this car indicates to pull out. I went, great, there's a space there. Shouldn't be far from this street, because I'd never been there before, but I knew it was roughly around this area. And he pulls out. Even waves, thank you for letting him pull out in front of me. And back the car in. I'm a backer inner. I'm not I can't do front parking. I don't know why. Everything's backward with me. But anyway, I get everything ready. I've got my x-rays. I've got all my papers under my arm, as you do. And I get out of the car and lo and behold, I decide I'll look for the number so I know how far I've got to walk. Can you believe I was right at the door? That building was right there, right in front of me. I only had to go up a few steps and into the lobby, and I was in that building. That was active faith, and it enforced something within me. It thought, like those thoughts of negativity, of being doubtful, were all those temptations, those little demons, I guess you could say, that we all have within us that want to see us fail. It's like, haha, we're going to get her. We're going to make her fail. We're going to give her no faith whatsoever in angels. We're not going to give her anything, because she's going to just, she's going to succumb to the fact that it's not possible. And it's possible. Anything is possible, as long as you remove the doubt. Those are those anchors that are around you, stopping you from moving forward. It's sort of like you take one step forward and you're feeling like something's pulling you back, and that's your doubt. That's you stopping yourself from having what is designed for you. Now, let me just put something else out there. You're not going to get everything you want because you're not meant to. That's like in a situation like, people say, okay, you're a psychic. Why can't you predict the winning numbers of lotto? If I'm meant to and it's designed for me, I trust my angels will provide. I took a flutter one day there, and I think I posted it on my account thing, whatever it's called, for Facebook. And I got all the numbers. And for like $2, I won over $1,000. And this was in Keno. And I thought, oh, okay, because, something just kept telling me all that morning. And I know what it was. It was Dad telling me these numbers. And I thought, oh, okay. And because some were over like 40 or something like that, I thought, well, that's not, lotto. Lotto only goes to about, 40? I don't know. But some are like 63 and 70 or whatever. You just turn this down. Sorry, that's my stuff. So in regards of that, I thought, okay, well, I'll write the numbers down. There is a reason they're giving me these numbers. And I thought, they look like gambling numbers. And I thought, oh, bugger it. $2 won't hurt. So I thought, what can I spend $2 on to get these numbers? And so I saw the Keno. Okay, that'll do. I walk away and I just let it go. I didn't even think about it. I just, okay, these are the numbers I'm getting. Then I put them down. And I came back and saw this, you've won over $1,000. So this has got to be a joke. And it was real. But now that could have gone a different way as well. There are some people, it's like if a person, you've heard of the cases where people go and they'll play a poker machine, for example, and they'll get a drop and they'll think, oh great, I'm on a winning streak, and then they put another bit through and they start to lose it. And then we've got people who use the excuse, oh, they're rigged. And some of them, yeah, they are. They're meant to bring in a certain amount of profit and everything like that. But you've also got to have a loss in order to have a profit with these industries. Otherwise, they would be completely broke. So these people that take their whole pay packet, they take it down because they think they're going to get the big one. Now, all right, that's active faith, but is it designed for you? Is it really in your highest good? Have you prepared your ground properly? Have you first got all your debts out of the way? So this is how angels and guides will work with you. They will help you have the providing influence of funds to see to that everything that you need to get out of the way is catered to. But if you abuse that, if you take that and you dump it all into something and your kids are starving and you've got car repayments or you've got house repayments or you're waiting to get the money together to pay off the electricity bill, which is through the roof, and you're using it to gamble, what does that say? Have you got your priorities in order? No. Because that money that was there for you, and yes, you may have earned it, but think of the blessings behind that. Things don't just happen. There is action behind the scenes that you've got no idea about going on. Think of when you apply for a job. You're not the only person applying for a job. You've got other applicants there that may be even better than you, but there is something that they see as a quality in you that you can bring as a breath of fresh air to that business or that industry, and they think, we're going to take a chance. We're going to give them a chance to do something and to prove themselves. And if you continue with that enthusiasm, of course you're going to be top all the time. You're going to start moving up that ladder. I can remember I used to work for the Trading Post, and this was after finding my father through that miracle, which I call a miracle. I thought, I've got to work. I've got to get to see my dad. That was my focus. And it motivated me. I mean, I could have gone back to readings back then, but I tried to avoid this. I really did. I did everything to try to avoid this. I worked at WOW FM. I worked at 2KY doing the readings and everything like that. I did Today FM, all these kinds of things. And then I had my column that I did voluntary for several newspapers, the Hills Times, the Blacktown City Guardian, the Torch, Bankstown Torch, things like that. And then all these contributions, and I thought, I don't want to go back to it. I really don't want to go back into that, because I at that point used to give out my number, and I would have some people that would call me every hour of the day. One woman, I had to tell her, I can't deal with you anymore. I really can't deal with this. You're doing my head in. Because it would be, Karen, and I'll say her name's Fiona. It's Fiona. Oh, look, I've got to go out today. Do you think I'm going to be okay? Do you think anything's going to happen? I had a missed phone call. It's Fiona. I had a missed phone call. Do you think it was my ex? Do you think he's stalking me? And I'd be like, oh my God, please, woman. And I was enough. And that was how it was. And I can remember, God love her, there was one woman who came to see me. I had the studio at the back of the house in Regent's Park. And she came out, and I was pregnant at this time. And as you know, with morning sickness and everything like that, I don't know what happened. This poor woman, I could never forgive myself for it. But she's having the reading. All of a sudden, I'm feeling, I've got to go upstairs. And so, because I had this granny flat converted into, so I went upstairs. I don't know what happened to me. I thought, I've got to lay down. So I went in and I laid on my eldest daughter's bed. And I must have gone to sleep. And then after a while, it was like something startled me awake. I thought, oh my God, I've got a client. So I went down and I said, I'm so sorry. She was still sitting there. Oh my God. She said, I was wondering where you are, but I like your cafe latte, because she helped herself to the machine there. And she said, I just had beverages. I thought, oh no, it was so embarrassing. So at that point, I was like, I don't want to go back into this. I had moved because of the fact that, we had, at that point, my husband and I had problems with his family, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to get into that story. But, he was Muslim and I was Catholic, and it was like not acceptable. Haram, as they called it. And the fact that we had a girl, his family said, that's Allah punishing you. Because you're supposed to be the firstborn boy, you're supposed to give a boy. And I said, well, guess who was the decider in this sex? Anyway, cut a long story short, that's why I was like, I don't want to go back into it, honestly. So at the Trading Post, I kept giving thanks for the fact that, God stepped in. He finally heard me. He did something. He showed me that my faith was restored, that he was listening. And I decided, okay, I'm going to get this job. I've got to tell you how this interview went. I was doing housework, and there was this radio program I used to listen to, a talkback. And this guy, I can't remember his name, but I rang up to talk. And he said, how are you, Karen? Okay. And, because you got to give your name before you go on air. And I said, look, I've got a bit of a bind. And he said, what's that? And I said, I need a job. I really need to get a job. And I told him I found my father. This is so important to me. I need a job. If you've got the revenue, I've got the labor. That was my selling point. Anyway, as it turned out, a lady by the name of Margaret Hope was listening to that radio station, and she heard me, and she called up and she said, I'll give her a go. I'm from the Trading Post, and then they were back in Parramatta. So I thought, yes, and there were like offers coming from different people who heard the radio program. And so I went in, and I was so happy when she said that I had the job. Like, she said, when can you start? I knew I've got the job. I burst into tears because it meant so much to me. And then the radio station rang them, and he said, can I speak to Karen? And of all the things, he said, did you get the job? I went, yes, I got the job. And he said, who are you working for? And I said, the Telegraph. And they're like, no, it's the Trading Post. I went, oh yes, it's the Trading Post. I said, but it could be the Telegraph. And then I worked my way up that ladder. Within 4 years, I had gone from inbound call centre, where in that time you would hear a beep and you would have a customer on the phone. You didn't have a chance for anything. As soon as you were on, as soon as you finished, you would get beep in your ear. It was like more of a beep, and then you'd say, hi, this is Karen, welcome to the Trading Post, how can I help you? And I thought, I've got to do something here. I've got to help the people. It was like that instinct in me to want to help the people selling. There's 1,000 million people advertising every single day, and you need your ad to stand out. Have you got a photo? And I tell you, I was the only one who could sell a photo ad for a rock. I kid you not. This guy had big landscaping rocks, and of course I get into a conversation with him, and I said, how big would they be, in comparison to a person? Oh, well, you've got ones that are, from the knee high up, and some that are bigger than, the person themselves. He said, but they're great for landscaping and, even like big places like parks, reserves and everything. He said, because I've got thousands of them. And I said, can you get me a photo? He said, are you real? I went, yeah, I'm real. Get me a photo. You need a photo. You can only show people how they're going to look if you've got photos, or you've got some, some ideas or something, like that you can show of how they look in the garden. He said, I actually converted one into a waterfall. I went, beautiful. Show me that photo. I stuck that photo in the paper, and he got call upon call upon call. Now, I had never been trained in that, but I looked at it from, okay, if I'm looking for something, how am I going to, and I was determined. And I believe that it was like my guides and my angels saying, come on, Karen, you can do it. Look, you've got this from a phone call. You made that first step. We're going to see you right. And that's what happened. They saw me right. In 4 years, I had climbed that ladder 4 times to business development manager. I had my own team, basically, like looking after areas, looking after companies like car dealerships, stuff like that. And there was just, like I had even got a car. Now I thought, oh God, I've only just got my license. It's going to be a problem. So I thought, I've got to get my P's. I was almost ready to go for the P's, and I thought, guides, be with me. You know how important this is. Believe it or not, I get the P's like that. And I was nervous. I was a really nervous person doing the driving tests and everything like that. I mean, I used to, yay, every time I do something right. And then it was just one step after that to something else. I basically climbed that ladder when they gave me that company car and they saw me put the P plates on, they're like, okay. Then they moved to the city, and from there it was like, after a while, it was no longer that you would do the city papers and stuff like that for the trading post. It went online, so everything was online, and then I was selling packages and stuff like that. It was like everything transformed. Then they closed the trading post part down, and they were centralizing it to different areas. Now, in that time, I had become first in the state in sales 3 times over. So that was a great accomplishment. They were sitting people with me to learn how to sell, and I found it very easy. So I guess, gift of the gab, if you want to put it that way, I don't know. But overall, I believe that I had help. Things don't just happen. There is a reason you get that gut feeling to pick up that phone and ring a radio station and say, I want work. If I don't get work, I'm going to go out there, because I remember they were talking about terrorists. Yes, they were talking about terrorists at this time. And I rang up and I said, if I don't get a job, I'll be the next terrorist. And they said, what? And I said, I need a job. So, of course, that, I think, it worked for me. I don't know. I don't even know why I said that. It's not me. But I had been, right, I've got to do something. But with all that climbing the ladder, I had a bit of a problem where it came back to, all right, I didn't have enough to actually afford to see my dad, because it was like all of a sudden I had invited somehow bills, repayments, other things, and then I got pregnant, and it was like, oh my God, is there any other blockage that can step in my path preventing me from seeing my father? And I wish I had never said that, because that was the invitation. Is there any more? See the words? Is there any more blockages that can step in my path? Oh yes, Karen. Welcome. Here's your blockages. And it ended up that my father passed without us ever seeing face to face. All that persevering, pushing, to get into a job and work my way up the ladder so that I could get some type of holiday pay. Because I worked up the ladder so quickly, I wasn't in the position long enough to accumulate holiday, which meant I was just basically going from a position where there were no holidays to a position where I could get holidays, but I had to be in the role for 1 year before I could get holidays. Now, my father was getting worse. He was actually starting to get really ill. He had a blood condition that, was blocking his arteries, things like that. They had to put him on all these types of things. And he was also in a wheelchair. So I remember getting that phone call saying, he's gone. And I thought, okay, well, I did get to say goodbye to him, even though he couldn't at that point respond verbally. And then I had this feeling, Karen, start preparing your home. He's coming. He's coming over. So I was like a nesting hen. I was there cleaning, going through everything as though I was waiting for this incredible visit. And I had never gone into such a cleaning frenzy in my life. I was Dettolling the skirting boards. I was vacuuming through, because at that point I had carpet. And then I was also, I looked at the wall and it had like a bit of a smudgy mark, that you get as they do. Out comes the sugar soap, and I'm washing the walls. And I'm thinking, why did I put sugar soap? Now I've got to paint them. And it was like preparation. My dad's coming. I've got to start preparing. And I just kept repeating it. That was what I heard. That's what I felt. And so I started repeating it. Sure enough, that night, I'm laying in bed. Whole room's pitch black. Other half is snoring his head off, as usual. And I had my eyes closed. Then all of a sudden, this incredible bright light that I could see through my closed eyelids began to manifest in front of me. I didn't open my eyes. I just didn't want to. I don't know why I didn't want to. I wanted to, but there was something saying to me, keep them closed. You need to focus on this. You need to embrace this moment. And the emotions that swept over me were incredible. And then I heard my dad say, I want to give you a hug. His voice right beside me. I just put my arms up and I said, I want to hug you too, Dad. And then it was like click, it's my dad. I opened my eyes, the whole room was pitch black because I broke the moment. I broke that connection. And I was amazed. I would had seen him face to face for the first time, but we weren't meant to, because it was supposed to be a spiritual blessing. God led me to him by, and you can see the story on the website. I'm not going to go into it. And the next minute, it was all spiritual. Our whole relationship as father and daughter was all spiritual from the moment we ever connected to the time after his passing. So it was beautiful. It was a beautiful connection. And then that time when I felt my dad around and I said to him, can you talk into this? And I had the microphone and he's saying, I'm the proudest father in the whole wide world. Share this with the others. And the others meaning other people. And then he says, there's a whole new world for you. There's a whole new world waiting for you. And how wonderful is that to know that, again, it took me back to my connection with spirit in a big way through my dad. So then I don't know why, everything just kept leading me back to this, everything. From people at work talking about certain things, then, I don't know, I just had that feeling, I've got to go back to this. And I kept pushing, I kept resisting. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do readings. I didn't know how to disconnect myself from people's problems, I think it was, because, I would sometimes walk away from a reading or finish a reading and I'd be bawling my eyes out. Like one woman who came to see me, and this was in Regent's Park, she said to me, I've got a question I need answered. Can you help me? And I said, well, it depends, and, if I can, I don't make promises. She said to me, when is my husband going to die? And I said, what? She said, when is he going to die? And she said, that's all I'm here for. Because, as I did the reading, I just felt there's a really weird vibe that I'm getting. There's a really weird feeling that I'm actually getting. And it doesn't feel like this person is really interested in what is coming through here in this reading. It's like she's completely disassociated. So when we get to the end of the reading, she said, because I actually saw there is a big change that's about to form, and it's in days. It's not within months. It's not within weeks. This is like a transformation of a major kind happening in your life. And then when she said to me at the end, when is my husband going to die? I actually said to her, look, for a question like that, you're going to have to write down that you're asking me this and sign it, because I am not going to put myself in that position where you can turn around and try suing me for something, that you're asking, because she could have easily, at that point, I used to record on cassette tapes and everything like that, but, you know, I would go through nearly 3 or 4 cassette tapes, 4 cassette tapes. My longest reading back then was 5.5 hours. I just didn't know when to switch off, because if the thing was coming through, I was like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd have people waiting, you know, in the waiting room outside to come in, like a doctor's surgery kind of thing. So it got to that point, I thought, this is just too much for me. I don't know when to cut off. I don't know when, you know, enough is enough. And then people would really take that for granted. As soon as you go over that time they've paid for, and because I don't ever charge people more than what they pay initially, it was like, oh, well, you know, she keeps going. We're not going to say anything. We're not going to say no. And I thought, I can't keep doing this. I was washed out. But it came up, and I'll never forget it. I saw 6 days. She rang me on the 7th day to tell me that exactly 6 days after the reading, her husband died. She said to me, I'm so glad he's at peace. He was struggling. He had terminal cancer, and watching him die was the worst thing I had ever gone through in my whole life. She said that's why it was so important for me to know when he would be dying, so I would know he would be free. And of course, you know, big old Sook here burst out crying. I've kept it together pretty good over the years since that, because of the fact that I know, well, you know, people have to deal with things. And then speaking with Suella, speaking with my guide Suella, and talking about, you know, why does this happen? Why do people go through so much? And what can I do to help change their circumstances? She said, you can't do anything. It's not up to you, it's up to them. And for whatever circumstance they're in, there is a reason behind it. And I said, even the ones that are dying. I mean, one guy came to see me, and I will never forget this time. As soon as he walked in, I felt nauseous. And I thought, oh God, am I coming down with something? But I managed to get through the reading. And at the end of the reading, he says, do you know what I have? And I said, no. And then all of a sudden, this spirit that was with him, not a guide, a spirit, says AIDS. And I said, oh my God, you've got AIDS. And he looked at me and he said, yes, I'm going to be starting treatment and stuff like this. I'd never met a person with AIDS back then. And this was like, boy, was it 1980 something? And it took me back. But I don't know why. I mean, most people would probably, you know, freak out. I hugged this man and I sobbed and sobbed with him. And I said, I'm so sorry, you know, that you've got this. You know, I wish there was something that I can do for you, but I'm not a healer. And he said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not a healer. And he said, if you keep telling yourself you're not a healer, you'll never be a healer. And I thought, what? No, I'm not a healer. Anyway, he said, will you just pray with me? I went, yeah, well, prayer never hurt anything. And I really prayed for him. I sat with him and I held his hands and we prayed and we asked for the Archangel Raphael to come down and, you know, to intervene in his life and remove, if possible, if it is designed to be removed from him, this debt, whatever it might be, that it would happen. And he said, I have faith. A few years later, I was at the Rainbow Festival, which was where they do the readings, and it was a psychic thing. I was asked by Simon Turnbull to go down, and he gave me this area, and it was nice. It was nice to, you know, like when I could walk around and chat with different types of businesses, you know, that did crystals and all that type of stuff. And I even had one of those aura photographs. I can't remember the Carillion photos, and every colour of the rainbow was coming off me. And this guy says to me, you should be doing healing, because as he held my hand, I don't know why, he said, your hands are so hot. And I said, well, thank you, you're not too bad yourself. But anyway, seriously, he said to me, your hands are so hot. He said, you should do healing. I said, I'm not a healer. He said, you should do healing. You should look at it as a form of or an extension of your angels. And I said, how? Okay, well, I'll look into it. You know, I'll see what happens. So I left it at that. Did nothing about it. Honestly, did nothing about it. A few years later, I had this situation where one of our animals was really, you know, really sickly. And my mother, I remember when my mother was alive, and she would, you know, like if there was a bird that had been hit by a car, she would bring it in and she would hold her hands over this bird and pray. And then she would get like a dish of water. Now, my mother, I'm talking about a skeptic here, she had a faith in God. One thing I'll give my mother, the faith was immense. And she had this dish of water and she prayed over that. And then she did the sign of the cross on the head of the bird. She put the bird into this dark box with a blanket and some water. And she every now and then would go back and she would pray. And she would say beautiful things to the bird like, I love you, you are loved, you have to be here, you've got a reason for being here. You are, you know, you're a beautiful soul. You've got lots of healing around you. And look how wonderful you are. You know, like these enforcing positive phrases, very softly spoken to this bird. That bird, the next morning, she would release, flying off into the sky. You know, it was incredible. She gave heart massage to the border collie pups that were born blue. She used to breed border collies. Blayhuncher Kennels was their name. And then before that, she had corgis, and she would do heart massage on these animals. She would, you know, give them the breath of life. She would actually have one sleep beside her so she could use her body heat to heal this little puppy. She would feed them, you know, with an eyedropper. She would do so much. And I said, you're a saint. You know, you're great with animals. And she said, all it takes is a little love. If you've got love to give it to something that's going to appreciate it. She said, some people don't appreciate love. And I thought, well, you know, those words have stayed with me for a long time. And that's so true. How many people roll their eyes up at somebody who pray? You know, no matter what culture. I mean, it's a diverse culture that we've got around us now. We've got to adjust to all this diversity. The wonderful thing is every single culture is an angel in some form, stepping into our life to provide us some deeper insight and understanding of valuing life. Now, the page put up earlier a photograph of a young girl, a little, I think she was a Syrian girl. And all that she was asked to do was smile for a journalist. And the photo says volume. So if you haven't seen it, go and have a look at the High Priestess Studio, the actual main page, and have a look at that little girl's face and ask yourself, what can I do
towards my fellow human being, that it would be something that the angels would be smiling about? Would it be being racist? Do you think they're going to be smiling at that? Do you think that, if you are condemning a person for whatever their beliefs, kneeling in the street or kneeling in the corner of an office or whatever, praying in their tradition or whatever? I mean, people say, oh, they're only doing it for show, but that's their faith. And we should all respect those if we expect respect from others. So it goes around. It's a great big circle. And that's the same thing with angels. We can work through everything we do in our daily life as we would expect an angel to. So think about, before you go to say something to somebody, we're all guilty, we're all human, but if you are thinking, okay, I have to think like an angel in order for angels to be able to work harder in my life and help me achieve my goals. But again, remove the I. Think about what you can do for a friend, for a relative. Sometimes it means effort. Sometimes it's like, I can't be bothered. I don't want to drive them around. They're going to take advantage of me. As soon as you start having that thought process, they're going to use me, they're going to take advantage of me, or they're ungrateful, or, why should I do anything for them? They never did anything for me kind of attitude. That is exactly what you will get. You've got to start being the example. If you want things to change, be the example for that change. Begin to make positive changes right up here. This is where it starts, in here. If you're thinking doubt, lack and limitation, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get doubts. You're going to get lack and limitation. If you're not meant to be wealthy, you won't be wealthy monetary wise, but you'll be wealthy in areas many people with money would give their right arm for. Think of how many people say, money doesn't buy happiness. Why is that? Why isn't money buying happiness? If a person gets something that is not designed for them, there is a reason. It's not saying you can never have it, but at the moment, there are some things that you need to sort out in your own life first. And until you can sort those out, until you can find the source of why you are stubborn, of why you are, determined to bring someone else down, or you're snapping at people that love you, or you're just not interested in communicating with anyone around you. It's like, do your own thing, I can't be bothered, or I'm going to turn off the light, I'm just going to go to sleep, because it makes the day go quicker. If you're doing stuff like that, why would anything happen for you? You are turning your back on opportunity. Sometimes, if you start thinking the opposite, if your heart's not really in it, and again, you're going to be tormented with those thoughts, just as I was about that car space. You're not going to get it. Look how much traffic. It's raining. Everyone's in their cars. They're all going to be looking for a space. But I just kept enforcing, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to give thanks. I'm going to be positive. This is what's going to happen. And it happened. Now, there are some times that things aren't meant to go our way because we are either needing to learn something from it. So if something goes wrong for you, ask yourself, what is my lesson here? Or think back, what did I create on my path for this to happen? Was I too lazy to do something that I know I could have got done? Was I being ungrateful for someone? Did someone do something for me and I didn't even reciprocate with it? Oh, gee, thank you so much for doing that. I know that meant, or that took a lot. Are you holding on to resentment for someone? And it could go years back. It could go back to your childhood. I can remember a time talking about gambling. And I've never told this to other people except family. So, this is a big news flash. My parents, my mother and my stepfather were addicted. I mean addicted to gambling. Pokies. They sucked every single cent from his business, from my bank account, because back then when I was living at home, my first job, which I got into, was working with Hanna-Barbera. Mum sent in all my drawings. Mr. Barbera got in touch with my mother, gave her a letter saying, when your daughter's ready and she leaves school, she's got a job waiting for her. And they were at St. Leonard's back then. Anyway, I was making a mozza, because I was an in-betweener, which is an animator's assistant. I was like doing the, on the light box, I would do one, they'd have, hang on, how can I describe it? The in-betweener makes the in-between character motions. So you might have a hand in this position and a hand in that position. And the in-betweener's got to make the flow. You've got to do that. You could have like an eye blink. You could have, something like a person turning, or, their motion as well. So you would have you might have the head you've got to work on, or you might have one arm you've got to work on, or it's torso. So then, in the film part, when they're doing the projection and everything like that, and they're laying out the cell, they would have all these different layers of the scene. It was a lot of work. So my quota was 50 feet of film that I had to put out in 1 week. 50 feet. And I was going into 60, 70 feet, 80 feet. So I was walking home at the age of 16 with almost $2,000 in my pocket. And all that money, bar $20, was handed to my parents. And it was meant to go into my bank account. So in 1 year, I would have had enough to buy a home. I would have had enough for a house. When they went to Korea, initially, they asked me to go. I didn't want to leave my parents. I regret it, but I didn't want to leave my parents. There was a reason, obviously. I had no head sense about responsibility, being out in the big world and everything like that. And then after that, I see people like, Stephen, my cousin, who also worked at Hanna-Barbera's, which I discovered he was on my stepfather's side. He's now training top animators in, I think it's Canada or something like that. DreamWorks they're working at, and all these other places. So anyway, there was my opportunity gone. But at that point, I remember it came up near Christmas, and I went, of all places, they used to have a Tandy store, and we lived in Marylands, and Tandy, I don't know whether they're still there, but there was a Tandy store, and then there was, what was it, Big W. Or Woolworths. I don't know whether it was just Big W, but anyway, Tandy was there, and they had this stereo, and I fell in love with it. It was like only $500 or something like that. It was ridiculous. And it had the speakers, it had the turntable, it had the radio, it had the twin cassettes, so you could record from one thing onto either a cassette, you either be the turntable or the radio or whatever, or from another cassette. And it also had a wake-up alarm. I mean, this was like modern technology. I needed that, and I thought, that would be the very first thing that I would ever own, that I paid for. And I said to my mum, can I please have $500 from my account so I can buy this stereo? And I showed her the picture, and I said, look, isn't it beautiful? And she said, I've got something to tell you. And I said, what? And I'll never forget my stepbrother, John. He used to always hound them. Show me my bank book. Let me have a look at my bank book. And I thought, gee, that's rude. don't you trust them? And he said, no, I want to see how much how much I've earned, because he worked at Coles and stuff like that. And he also did a paper run. So he wasn't getting anywhere near what I was getting, but I trusted them, as you do. They're your parents, Mum said to me, she pulled me aside, there's nothing in your account. And I said, what? But I've been, and she said, well, you do have, board and stuff like that. I said, but board isn't $2,000 a week, or 1,900. I started talking back, and that was a no-no in my family. You do not talk back. It was, you get a smack in the mouth for doing stuff like that. But I was furious. I was so disappointed and heartbroken. All that time working, putting all the, getting all that money, feeling proud of myself for achieving this without even being trained in an industry of animation. I got in there as basically just, we love your drawings. We can see you're going to go a long way. And I was gutted. I thought, my God. And she said, don't worry, we'll try and get the money for you. So they basically, my stepdad got some jobs because he was doing gardening for Lend-Lease and Mercedes-Benz and stuff like that at Top Ride, and Sony. And he got some jobs. So, of course, that, they reluctantly gave me the $500. I said, what happened to it? And they said, well, we went to the club, and so they were using all my money. And that had stayed with me for a lot of years. I thought I could have had my own home back then. I could have, used it as an investment. I could have, got this, I could have got that. I would have had no mortgage, because back then houses were like a dime a dozen. And it shattered me, because I felt like it had blocked me. Here was my brother, my stepbrother, who was the angel's way of saying, check your account. He's doing it. You've got to do this too. But I ignored it, because I thought, you don't do that. You don't do that to your parents. So the signs were given to me, but I didn't pay attention, or I didn't understand them at the time. So this is what I mean. We can get signs given to us from our angels that are either through the acts of other people, through gut feelings, or through experience. And if we don't choose to listen to those signs, we set in our path whatever we apply. So it was a really confronting thing for me, and for a lot of years, probably, to be honest with you, up until this year, near my 60th birthday coming up, I am like, that's so hard to let go of. And then speaking with Suella, she said to me, do you know what's holding you back? Do you realize what has caused a lot of these, like tumours that you had, and the cancer and whatever, and all these problems in relationships and everything like this? Because you've got no trust. That is the core, where your trust was damaged in people. She said, you've got to start forgiving. And I said, how can I forgive? I mean, it's stuffed up my whole life. It's caused me to work, back-to-back hours, sometimes 19 hours a day, for a pitiful, honestly, it's a pitiful wage once you cover expenses with staff, advertising, boosting posts that they have to do, because some of the people aren't seeing the page posts and everything like that. And you think, isn't it all worth it? But I think it's spiritually rewarding, and that's how I look at it. But at the same time, unfortunately, I live in the real world, and there are bills that have to be paid. There are things that you need to keep up to date. If you don't have like the up to date computers, then how are you going to be able to record or to do live streams or to communicate with staff or get things up onto the website or things like that? I mean, this is all, we live in a time of technology that is controlling us to a degree, but we still have control. But I think to myself, how different might my life have been if I had checked my bank book? They wouldn't have been game, like they weren't game to touch John's book. John had accumulated, at least it was 120,000. He was, a good saver. He did not. He was a very good saver. He's actually got his own detailing business. So I'll give him a plug, JVL. Hang on, let me just have a look. I'll tell you what my brother. If you are in Queensland or the Gold Coast, I think he is, JVL Detailing, and he does immaculate work on detailing cars. He actually uses this little clay thing and goes over the whole car, top to bottom and underneath, and he gets all the crap out. He also works for Qantas, but he may have changed back to the detailing, because I'm noticing that he's putting things up about his detailing again. And he also has a passion for racing. So I mean, he's a really good guy. He's a down-to-earth, really all-round good guy. He's been hurt and loved, that type of thing, but very, very good heart. Anyway, cut a long story short, that was my block. And so I said, what do I do? How can I remove this? She said, I want you to go back. Visualize yourself going back to that time when you had that shock. And I want you to say, as hard as it is, I forgive you. It's money. It's just energy. The money will manifest again in its right time. And I thought, how can I do that? It's stupid. I can't go back. There's no time machine. It's not as though, it's going to make any difference. She said, it will only make a difference if you believe it will make a difference. And so I thought, okay. So I did it. And I tell you what, the emotions that came out were incredible. I first did it in a sort of a semi-reverse way. In my mind, I confronted my parents. I stood up to them. I had never done that before. I was too scared to even say boo, because I thought it was going to be painting a very bad image of me as an individual back then. If my parents said jump, I'd say how high. That's how it was. I mean, I remember having to get out in the backyard and rake up dog poop before my stepfather would mow the lawn. And here's another secret. I used to flick it over the neighbour's fence and accidentally hit this little kid who was on his trampoline in his grandmother's backyard. Yeah, I'll never forget that. He stood up and there was a piece of dog poop on his head. I went, oh, where did that come from? He said, you did it. You threw poo on me. I saw you through the fence. And I went, oh, no. So, yeah, guilty. So anyway, when we go back to occasions like that, maybe that's why some people shit on me, copping it. So anyway, with that, I got it off my chest, in my mind. Mum, I'm so upset, I'm so angry, that you did this. You and my stepfather, you did this and used my money, and, I could have had more today. And I'm thinking, it was at that point, I thought, what is more? It was like an epiphany. The light went on. What am I really angry about here? Everything's about me in this. I'm angry, and I'm being resentful at my parents because they used my money, and that money belonged to me, and it could have given me my own house at the age of 20. I could have had investment properties. I could have had this, but would I? Would I? That's the question. Or would I, being so naive and insecure to even go as far as leaving home because I was not, savvy about the big wide world, would I have just blown it? If I had control over that money, would I have blown it? Would I have just, gone on a spending spree and spent up? I mean, the mind of an adult compared to a kid back in those days is very different. You think about how you're thoughting, that's a new word. Write that down, thoughting. How you're thinking now as an adult differs from when you were a child. How many times have you thought to yourself, back then what they were doing was so wrong and I should have stepped in and done something about it, but I didn't because I was too scared to do something. I was too scared as, an individual to either upset them or that type of thing. It was like you ask yourself, if I could go back and talk to my younger self about life, what to expect, what would you prepare your younger self with? What would you tell your younger self about your life's lessons and how you can change your path ahead? That decision you made right then at age 16 has got you where you are today in some way or another. So ask yourself, I want every one of you right now to just say, what would I say if I'm upset about my relationships not working out? If I'm upset about, not having a relationship, what was my design or my attitude towards relationships back then? Was I, falling head over heels in love with people who were just not morally right for me? Was I hanging around people who were ungrateful, who talked back to their parents, who were nasty? Did I find myself drawn to the bad boy image? Every choice, and this is what angels and guides are there for, every choice you make, all they can do is stand by and support you. Because in the end, you are an individual. You have free will. Even God can't influence your will. So how can you expect guides and angels to influence your will? You have more control in your life than you realize. Everything that you have in your life right now is a manifestation of what you've created along the path, or what you've allowed to get into a manifestation for, whether it be for good or for bad. There has been something, sometimes we can have messages or messengers, I should say, angels, that work through people close to us. How many times have you had a friend just ring you up saying, I was thinking about you the other day. You okay? We should catch up for a cuppa or, coffee or whatever. And you're like, yeah, you fob them off. I don't want to talk to them. Or I've just got no time. Things like that. How many times have you done that? And then all of a sudden, when you need someone, where are they? Hello? You're doing it. Everything you do is like tiny little boomerangs that you're throwing out. Now, boomerangs can come back, the ones that are designed properly, not made in China. The ones that are properly made, they come back. And this is the same as everything that you affirm right now in your life. If you affirm to yourself, and you might not be thinking that you're affirming anything, you might just say, gee, I had a crap day. I'm really sick of this job. They're unappreciative bastards. They just run me down. They put lots of work on me. They don't even pay me what I'm worth. And then we've got, stuck up Sally over here, who is just, walking around like the ant's pants in the office. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And she talks to everyone, blah, blah, blah. And then she's talking behind so-and-so's back and they can't see it, and blah, blah, blah. And all these little things annoy the crap out of you. And so these are little signs from your angels saying, you're not really happy here. Do something about it. We'll help you as long as you help yourself. You do 50%, we'll do the other half. But you've got to be in control. No point whinging about something if you've got no intention of doing anything about it. You can whinge down someone's ear when you're ringing them up. And think of this. If you have someone who all they're doing is ringing you up, complaining, going on about their life, and you've heard it 100 times before, probably like these live streams, but they're going over the same thing. You know what you do? You say, okay, when you get that phone call, try this. Now, before we get into a conversation, I'm going to put some ground rules out here. So work with me on this. In this conversation, we are not going to be talking about our exes. We are not going to be talking about our work. We are not going to be talking about our health problems. We're not going to be talking about how our kids drive us up the wall, how they leave their clothes lying around everywhere. We are not going to be talking about blah, blah, blah. We're not going to be talking about this, whatever it is that annoys the crap out of you, that does your head in, which is starting to drive a wedge between you and that friendship or that relationship. And then you say, okay, so what did you call for? I think I might call back. So I've had that where like, okay, she doesn't want to talk about this. She doesn't want to hear that. It's all being registered. But then you say, from now on, we're going to have a new conversation. We're going to talk about our goals. We're going to talk about things we want to do. We're going to create dreams. We're going to be focused on being positive. We're going to be starting to focus on, okay, if we've got health problems, what are we going to do about it? Let's get out there and start getting some fresh air and oxygen in our lungs. Let's start eating right. Are you with me? Are you interested in changing your circumstances, or do you like moping about and going over it and over it again and just bringing everyone else down because you're feeling low? You think, okay, well, if I'm feeling low, someone else has got to be feeling low as well. And that is also the influence of the our soul spirit in people's lives. They love people to just take their vent and frustration out on everyone around them. If they're upset, everyone else has got to be upset. And we've all encountered it. We're not immune to fault. And you've got to respect that within you, because as an individual, if you don't have fault, how are you going to learn anything? So don't be hard on yourself. If you stuff up something, well, maybe I rushed into it. What is this learning process that I'm having here? What are guides and the angels showing me? What's God showing me about myself? Did I jump to conclusions? And if you're waiting for someone in your life to turn around and say sorry, don't. Be the one to take that step. And don't turn it around halfway and say, well, I really shouldn't be saying sorry to you because you're the one who did this. But it wouldn't have been an issue if you didn't take it in. No one can hurt you unless you let them. That's number one. You can't be cursed if you don't believe that curses are real. And this is another thing, going off topic, but let's cover it anyway. There's so many people out there who say, can you put a love curse on so-and-so so that they love me, so that they come into my life? Sure. But remember, if that happens, are you ever going to be wondering, is it what I've asked that spell to be that is making them love me, or do they really love me? One thing is for a fact, any kind of spell, whatever, cannot happen unless the other recipient is willing for it to happen in some way. If that person is not into you, they are not going to reciprocate, no matter what. It's not that the curse or the, spell, if you want to put it that way, is not working. It's because you don't have faith. You don't have faith, and that person is not into you. Bottom line. So you can't make someone love you. I mean, look at God. He would love for everyone to love him. But that's free will. He gave us all free will. You can't mess with free will. But you can change your thoughts. You can start manifesting a more healthier outlook on things. If you are getting little inklings of signs around you, stop and just say, what am I being told here? What is the message from this that I'm being given? Is it a warning sign for things to come? It's like being in a position where you're driving along the road and you've got all these, detour signs and everything like that, and, closed bridge ahead or whatever it might be. If you're not paying attention to those signs when you're driving, what happens? You can end up killing yourself. You could end up crashing or, riding off your car or somebody else along the way. So just as there are signs there to guide us when we're driving and stuff like that, or you're seeing, think about a person in front of you in their car and they're fishtailing, and you can see them going over this side and then over that side. Are you going to try to overtake them? Maybe. But maybe you're going to be looking for an exit so that you're out of that person's way, because something is telling you either they're tired or they're drunk or they're on medication. So in circumstances like that, that's where you're actively alert and you're thinking about, your drivers around you and stuff like that. Ooh, he's going to be he's going to be coming into my lane. Many of you who drive will know that feeling. They're going to try cutting you off, or they're slowing down to be an outright dirtbag, and they're just trying to aggravate you. Either they're having a really messed up day and they just want to have a fight with somebody. Don't accept the invitation. Look for an exit. Look for some way off that path, because if you stay on it and it gets to the point where that person swerves into you, or you are in a position where they suddenly brake and you run up the back of them, and then there's this big all-out, accident and what have you, then you had the warning. Sometimes it's better just to back off, to keep observing, but back off and be alert. See what's going on. Watch the signs. Some people, if you give them enough rope, the old saying is they'll hang themselves. So in those cases, when someone's doing you wrong, it is up to you to do something about it. If you've been given the signs, or you've been given those little type of, red flags that are going up, even in a relationship, if someone that you are with, you feel that, you love them, but something tells you can't trust them, well, guess what? You don't love them. Because unless you can trust them wholeheartedly, with your hand on your heart, it's not love. You are in that relationship because you're scared of being out of one. You've got to be able to see the signs being presented to you. Now, I had I had the red flags. The red flags were Chris, my resident spirit, telling me he's cheating. He's up to no good. My mother, her spirit, kick him to the curb, were her words, kick him to the curb. Albert at the office, Karen, wake up, your other half's having an affair. I ignored it because I thought, my God, what am I going to do? I'm working at the office. I need someone to be there with my daughter, like my young one. I don't know what to do. I felt lost. Here I was helping solve other people's problems, giving them guidance and everything like that. And I felt like I don't want to listen to these signs. I don't want to listen to that. And sure enough, one day I got home from work, from the office, and here's my other half at his laptop. All you could see was the back of his head, as usual. And Chris, my spirit friend, he said to me, ask to have a look at his phone. I said, I never look at his phone. Asked to have a look at his phone. So I went out and I said, David, can I have a look at your phone, please? Why? I said, I just want to see if you've got something on there that my phone has. You know, like I've got this new thing that's been, show me. And I said, no, can I just have a look at your phone? It's going to take me a second. And he said, no. And really defensive. And I thought, what is the problem? And I knew the problem because I'd already been told the problem. And then all of a sudden, my eldest daughter gets up, goes to his laptop. She says, Mum, he's chatting to this woman, telling her, talk to me through here, sweetie. Don't call me. Don't message me. She's home. Well, I did what my mother said. I threw him out on his butt and I shut the front door and I said, get out of my life, you're gone. No, he wouldn't have it. So he got to the point where he was determined to smash his way in, pulled the door off the hinges, all that kind of stuff. He was getting very violent. But it was true. He was having an affair. To rub salt into the wound, he was taking our daughter along on his rendezvous to babysit her child while he and her had time together. All the while I was working my shifts and everything like that. So you can imagine it was a pretty hard time. So I decided I have to leave that. I have to leave that office. There was my sign. I think back, that office, it was a great opportunity to meet Albert, my office spirit. I met some beautiful spirits there. I even met some really beautiful people that came to see me. But it was so noisy as well. There were people walking up and down, going into the physiotherapist, going to the tax person next door. There was one time the tax agent next door was yelling at someone over the phone. So it was coming through, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And I got to a point at one stage, I would put a sign up, recording, please be quiet. And I thought, this is ridiculous. And then I started getting more bookings for people interstate and overseas for phone readings and for Skype and everything like that. And I thought, it's like the angels are saying, don't worry. Look at it this way. You don't have to pay strata. You don't have to pay council. You can work from home. You can still do it. And because I didn't know what I was going to do. I really thought about giving this up. I just thought, what is the point, And so this is my experience with guides and angels and spirit and everything like that. They will be there. They will walk into your life. They will be helping you with all the signs under the sun. But if you're too ignorant, then deal with it. So let's have a look at some of these comments. It's an hour and a half already into the live stream. So I know you've been messaging, like putting posts there and everything like that, but I just wanted to, enforce the fact that we do have a lot more control than we get ourselves credit for. If you are, as I said, if you are thinking of a situation you really want, I'll paint a little picture. Say you're thinking of yourself moving and the place you're in is a rundown piece of crap. It's it's had its day. You don't feel like you have the ability or the security to up and just leave. This is where you've got to start having faith. Begin preparing. Begin by sorting out the things that are cluttering your life, things that you don't use anymore, things you don't need. Start throwing them. Just toss them. If you don't use them and they haven't been used for the past year, 2 years, and they're just sitting there taking up space, declutter. Begin decluttering your life, because a lot of these things are holding you back. Think of it this way. I need to prepare to move. If I am going to move, am I going to be lugging all this crap from my past with me? Or do I want a fresh start, a fresh new me, a fresh life? So start getting stuck into those cupboards. Make this your New Year's resolution to have a new, fresh start in your life. Because if you keep holding on to last year's baggage, the year before's baggage, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of baggage, how do you expect to move forward? You are just weighing yourself down. You are stopping yourself and giving yourself excuses to remain where you are. So think of yourself as, okay, if someone were to walk in tomorrow and say, congratulations, you've won a house, and here's the keys, you'd be looking around thinking, oh God, I've got to get all this transferred through, the removalists and everything like that. Oh, it's going to take me forever. Begin sowing the seeds of faith. Begin by expressing that this is possible. The only one holding me back is me. The only one that is holding on to all this crap is me. Some of this crap might be connected to people who hurt you, that you're still vengeful about, you're still going over and over with. And sometimes it can become a fear. It can become, like a, oh my God, I want a relationship, but I don't want a relationship because what if? What if? Well, the what ifs are only put there by you. They're not put there by other people. Because as I said before, no one can hurt you unless you let them hurt you. You've got to be strong. You've got to realize your inner strength because, hey, you're a survivor. And I'll tell you why. No one has to tell you to take a breath. No one has to tell you to have a drink when you're thirsty. You know, because you're a survivor. And survivors are in control. There are some people who have to be helped in order to breathe with oxygen and stuff like that. But then, I'm not saying this is why, but who's to say that they have not, in some form through their life, made a conscious decision to contribute towards their future? There is some sad cases where, by the grace of God, we are not in them. Like that little girl in Syria. People in other countries where it's a war zone continually. Imagine being scared to go to sleep, being scared to wake up. Imagine being scared that if your mother goes outside, you're never going to see her again. Or if your kid steps outside the door, they're going to be blown to pieces. Imagine how horrible that would be. And yet we let trivial things stand in our way of having what is designed in our path, what is, designed for us. We have an opportunity to make such big transformations in our own life. And sometimes things will happen to make you have those transformations. Sometimes your guides and your angels will get so fed up of giving you those red flags, they'll say, look, we're done with this person. They're not listening. Right, that's it. This has to go. Sorry, it has to go. Think of it like those, team of people that come in and clean out things. Like what do they call it? Like there's some ladies in I think in the UK, they're hilarious, but they go into people's homes and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to lick the toilet seat. No thanks. And so they're getting in and they're cleaning up this person's life. They might be hoarders. They might be people who have, just very bad hygiene problems and stuff like that. And they're there to step in. And that is like, gets to the point sometimes that if your angels think you're a train wreck waiting to happen, they will remove you from that track and put you on to another track. But in between doing that, you've got a lot of rocks to cross. So you're going to be bump along the way, and you're going to be like, oh my God, it's so bad, I can't handle it. And then you get onto that smooth sailing, and then you look back and you think, oh my God, my life was terrible back then. I'm so glad to be away from that. But it happened because you had to go through it. But the important thing is you've got to ask yourself, what did I have to learn from that? It's okay saying, okay, well, I've gone through that and I've survived it, but are you waiting to do this again? Are you putting yourself, yes, I know you're here, are you putting yourself in a situation where you're creating the same path, the same thing? Because if you are, it's like history repeats itself. And it doesn't matter who comes into your life, they're going to be a cosmic force of the same past experience. And you're going to face that again until you wake up to the signs, until you begin to realize, okay, the angels and the guides are working in my life right now. What am I going to do? Am I going to listen to them, or am I going to ignore them? If I'm in a situation, I'm seeing these red flags, what am I going to do to correct them or remove myself out of its way? So in these circumstances right now, whatever your problems are, and I guarantee nearly everyone here has a problem. You're not just listening now just out of curiosity, are you? You're listening because you've got a situation that either you're keeping to yourself or you don't know how to deal with it. And this is where you turn to your guides and your angels and God. First of all, turn to God. If you've got faith in God, turn to Him. He's always listening. But you've got to realize they know you. They know if you are really sincere. If you're just doing it because Karen said pray and that'll fix everything, no, I'm not saying it'll fix everything. But you need to fix you before you can fix anything around you. And what's broken is you, is me. That's what's broken, because we let things break us. We lose our temper. We get to the point where, we are feeling like no one's even listening. I'm talking and I'm going blue in the face, and, it's like going through one ear and out the other. And this is with people around you, or people who just don't care. If you were an employer, as an example, and you saw your staff not lifting up a phone or not even bothering to service a customer or anything like that, would you keep them and keep paying them? Or would you say, there's the door, you know the way out, don't come back? The same applies to your life. If you are thinking negative every day, if you're having those bouts of negative thoughts, depression, being just angry, because anger can consume you. Just as love can consume a person, anger, boy, oh boy, is it powerful. And you've got to keep reminding yourself, I'm in control. I give thanks because I've got my guides and my angels with me, ready to step in and take control. With me. Not for me, but with me. They're going to be helping make my transition into having what is divinely planned for me and what I need right now in my life. They're going to help this happen because I trust them. I have faith in them. Nothing's going to put that in my path, that block. Get out of my path. And get out of your own way, because again, that's another way of holding yourself back. You're in your own way. You're like a carbon copy of yourself, saying, nah, you can't have that. You're never going to get that. Don't be stupid. You're living beyond your means. Some people, they do live beyond their means. They spend more than they earn. You wonder, how is that possible? But they do, because then they're trying to, survive. They're just surviving. They're going through the motions. They're going through, like, one day they're able to do things, the next day. And I feel like Suella's trying to get my attention around me. Is that you, Suella? Is this an angel? Are you trying to communicate with us? Is this one of the children that's been in my home? Oh my God, last night, the children. Anyway, so as I was going to go back, I'm going to read some of the things. Where are we? Mandy Cole says, my nan was like that. They bred German Shepherds and nan was amazing with them. So again, it's like they're in their life for a reason. I mean, my mother was a beautiful healer when it came to her animals, and a very compassionate person, but she had a problem with gambling. But that problem never existed until she met my stepfather, to be honest with you. My mother was not, she would, every now and then, back then, she would put a bet on a horse, and it was nothing for her to win. She just thought, I expect it. These are my favourite numbers. That's all I'm going to take. And she would win. Because she just thought, that's what I'm allocating. That's my play money. And that's it. And if I win on it, wonderful. If I don't, then I'm not missing it. And that was her attitude. But then it just got out of hand. Wow, hitting my heart big time, feels like I'm listening to my life. Well, that's good. That's good. No, I'm not a poor thing. I've had experience. Forgiving is hard, but it's so liberating. I couldn't help but laugh. I don't know whether you heard, I just had a child around me. I'm not going to. It's funny because I wouldn't change a thing. Those choices made me who I am today. Without them, I wouldn't be as strong as I am now. They were lessons that I needed to be able to cope with the day-to-day things I deal with now. The only thing I would probably say to myself is to stay true to me. And that's also correct. I mean, sometimes not every single person has got failure in their life, but there is something that they feel could improve, because we're only human. And this is where you've got to have your faith. I mean, if you've got no faith, the people I pity are the ones who don't believe in anything. The ones who are just so disconnected that they think that we're just here, we work, we pay tax, then we die. That's their attitude. They don't believe in an afterlife. They don't believe in, they just think money is power. But money is energy. We are the power behind the energy. The energy can't manifest unless we have the power. And the power is always within us, because it's all what we put out. Everything, people say money can't buy you happiness, but it helps. It helps because we live in a world where, yes, I know. Sorry, I just had Chris talk to me. We live in a world where we are conditioned to think that if we don't have, better than someone else, then we don't amount to much. if we don't have the nicest shoes, or we don't have a nice looking car, we're not going to get a date. If we don't do our hair a certain way, if we don't wear makeup, we're not talking about the guys, but then guys wear makeup these days too. But there are so many things that we put as projections of, well, this is a limitation. Who's going to want to go out with me? I'm boring. So do something about it. I don't like myself. I'm depressed. Well, who's keeping yourself depressed? What are you allowing to go on in that head of yours that is tormenting you and keeping you at that level of depression? Depression is very real. There's no question about it. But you've got to remember that it can only grow bigger if you are willing to just let it happen. If you are willing, though, to every time you get that doubt that crosses your mind, or that negative thought that crosses your mind, like I can't, or I won't, or it's going to happen for someone else, it's not going to happen for me, or you're beating yourself up or driving yourself nuts with these scenarios of how things are going to turn out, then you've got to start realizing that these are taunts. These are taunts that you have control over. You have to be strong enough, and you are. So don't ever say you're not, because you are. If you can turn around and you can tell someone to get stuffed, as an example, because you're angry, you're strong enough to tell that negative thought to go take a hike, because it's not going to do you any good. It's just going to keep you depressed. It's going to make you feel you're a failure. It's going to make you feel like, what's the point? It's going to consume you. It's going to start driving you to other things that are going to be supplements in order for you to cope with that, because it's escalating. It's like that snowball. And as it rolls, it continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because of the fact that you're just letting it happen. So instead of getting on the phone, doing your friend or your relative's head in with, oh, my life is so miserable, I can't take it anymore, that's a cry for help. Every time you are whinging about your situation to another person is a cry for you to help yourself. Don't think that other people are going to make it better. You might think, okay, talking about it helps me. But then once that talk's over, you're back to square one. And you're faced with the same situation. Again, if you don't do something about it now, by pushing away those negative thoughts, every time you get a negative thought, say, I'm wonderful, I am brilliant, I have everything that is divinely planned for me right here, right now. I give thanks to my guides. I give thanks to my angels. God, I love you. Thank you for being in my life and helping me make the right choices from here on. These words that whatever way you express them, put your own words together. You don't need me to tell you what to do. But you just need to start reinforcing positive things. Every time you think black, think white. If you think depression, think smiling, happy faces. Watch a funny movie. Don't watch a depressing movie. How many people, oh my God, remember back in the day when you broke up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, what was the first thing you did? You'd stick on love songs and you'd cry and you would be, thinking about them and you'd be sobbing. You'd be brokenhearted. But what you were doing was enforcing that moment. Okay, embrace it, but then let it go. Let it go, because it doesn't belong to you. It's an experience you had to have one way or another, and you've had it. You might have had the signs there being shown to you that, it wasn't really going to be all that you expected it to be. or there are some things here that just aren't, don't seem to be good. There's something that is just not adding up here. It's not working out. You give it another go. What are you giving a go? You're giving it a go to hurt yourself even more. It's like running yourself in more. I mean, the annoying thing when you think about it is these people that go from one relationship into another because they think that new relationship is going to fix whatever they've been experiencing in their previous relationship. But unless they fix themselves, they're going to be carrying it over to the next relationship. And then the same thing's going to happen. It's going to get to the point where, they're going to be cautious. Oh, there's a few things that person used to do. Now I'm on guard. Or I don't trust them because of what I've experienced with others. That's a cop-out. That is a cop-out. Because I was hurt in my past, I don't trust new relationships, so therefore I don't trust you because of what someone else did to me. My trust is broken. My trust levels are down. What are you doing in a relationship with someone else until you can learn to stand on your feet and say, you know what, that was an experience. I'm grateful for that experience because it has made me who I am today. It's made me a stronger, tougher person. That, Mandy, is the right attitude that you said. That is a healthy attitude. But there are so many people that get into a rut where it becomes a point where they feel that they've failed. They then take it out on themselves. They then start, maybe if I look different, or maybe if I took better care of my health, or if I was skinnier. If a person does not love you for who you are, then there's no love. You don't want a superficial love. You want them to love you from the inside out, not the outside in. That's the difference. If you go from one relationship into the next, that's not going to fix whatever's happened. You have to fix what's happened. This is why, you should always have a big break between relationships, because that healing process can take some time. It can take years before you release that. If you go jumping from one relationship into the next because that person feels like they're giving you more than this one can give you, what are you really looking for? Everything after a while settles. It's like when you pour a fizzy drink and you've got that foamy kind of head there, and then after a while it goes flat because the effervescence has gone. And that's the same as a relationship. If you don't keep the effervescence there, or if you think about that in comparison to like a fire, after a while a fire will burn itself out unless you keep adding the fuel to the fire to help build it up and build it up. And that fuel being added to a fire, if you put that in context with relationships, is work. This is what people don't realize. Relationships take work. It's not just a case of, we're going to have happily ever after, we're going to have children, we're going to have a picket fence around the yard, and everything's going to be rosy. After a while, reality hits. You've got bills. Is he contributing to these bills? Is he putting the effort into mowing that lawn? Is she making an effort to cook a meal? Is she too busy fussing over her friends' problems instead of focusing on us, building us up? I miss that because she was, when you think about how people are in the beginning of a relationship, all the attention is bestowed on each other. It's like no one else exists. You're texting each other 100 times a day. I just want to know that you're still there. You haven't left me, have you? And after a while, you're in a situation where, oh God, he can wait, she can wait. This is more important because the fun's over. The fun doesn't have to be over in anything unless you say, okay, it's enough. I've had enough. Thank you. I've had fun. I love you, but I don't trust you. I I think of you, but when I'm thinking of you, I'm thinking, who is he thinking of? Who is she thinking of? Are they going to text me back? And you check your phone a million times a day. I remember back in the day where we didn't have mobiles, and it was lovely. But then we would be sitting by that phone like this. Is it connected? Yeah, there's a dial tone. Okay. Oh, did I put on the hook properly? Okay, well, they're probably caught in traffic. Excuses. When you begin giving excuses for things as well, you begin, like, as in, you know, someone letting you down or something not going to your situation the way you want it. If you start creating excuses for that situation or that other person, you might as well say goodbye, because it's like you're preparing the ground for yourself to make excuses for people hurting you. You're going to be making excuses for things going wrong or things not turning out to your expectation, instead of saying, well, okay, you know what, I was too dependent. I had stopped giving thanks for this situation. I kept, I just expected it to stay like this, but it was getting clingy. It was getting to the point where everything was about, why. I mean, like, when you think about it, men fall in love very easily. Apparently it takes them, less time to fall in love than a woman. A woman will and ah and, but then we do have women who it's like love at first sight, and you think, oh, this is destined. He's my soulmate. Oh, she's my soulmate. And then that soulmate, it might take you years before you get the wisdom to realize what a soulmate really is. A soulmate is not someone you're sexually attracted to, physically attracted to, or, you think is going to make you laugh all the time. There are some serious times. And a soulmate, by definition, is someone previously known before. Not saying that you were in a past life together, because from what I've been told by Spirit, we do not reincarnate fully. We adopt or cross paths with other spirits that are there at the time of our conception, when we begin to be that spirit entering that body. And if we cross paths with them, we take an essence of that spirit with us. So there may be someone from one of their lifetimes that are in our path now. A new soul will never have a soulmate. Let me put it this way, because they haven't crossed paths with any other souls. Sometimes people come into our lives for a reason. They're either there to teach us something about ourselves, or they're there to teach us something about them. Either way, everything through life is a learning process. Don't expect to know it all. I don't. I've had to learn through my own experience, and thank God for the help of my guides and the angels around me, because there were times that, as I said, it took me so many years, up until this year, to forgive what happened in regards of my parents, because I held that bitter. I held that bitterness. I thought, what is it doing for me? It's not going to make any difference now. The past is the past. Now I have to think of, okay, if I remove that block from my path, that's an anchor that's around my neck that I'm throwing away. I don't need it. I don't need that situation to bring me down anymore. I'm going to start thinking positive. So everything that you think, do, even when you, I don't know whether you saw the video on water, talk to like the water. I mean, I'm not saying, look like a crazy person, but if you've got water around your home, say you've got a pond, put your hand upon the water and say, I give thanks for you protecting the environment or protecting my home. Thank you for the blessings you attract to our home. Thank you for the love. Enforce it with the positive words. Be kind. Be speak gentle. If you've got a fish tank, start using that water as that key element in the atmosphere around you that is going to be helping transition things in your life, because you're speaking kind. You are being grateful for it's, because you're made up of 70% water. So given that you are mostly consisting of the element that you're communicating with, is it any wonder that even when you drink water and it goes into your body, if you are, being negative and you're cursing someone and you're effing bitch or you're saying these things, and then you drink the water, what are you putting into your body? Everything that is around you, you're putting into your body. You're putting either as a thought or as an ingestion that you're taking in within yourself. So Kylie says, I'm proud of who I have become. There's only one thing I would change. Okay. Kylie says, my name means boomer and I keep coming back. Tanya says, I wouldn't change a thing, even my mistakes, because every single choice I made led me to who I am now. And that's great, but there's always a but. And I know it's only human. It's only human. So the old saying is, I say, no one's perfect. The last perfect person was crucified. That's how I look at it. But I love my journey. I love my experiences. I love my angels, my guides. I love my God. And I really do feel that everything has its purpose. Every experience may not be necessarily in the end going to help you. Let me just put it this way. I'll turn it around. But say you have a child. Through you become their teacher. So your strengths and your attitude and the things that you experience will either help design a better path for your child or will get them back into the same type of rut situation that you're in. So it's great to say, I'm proud of the person I am today because of my experiences, but have you let go of those? Have you forgiven those? That's the whole core of this, because with your angels and your guides to work for you and work with you, you've got to start healing. You've got to start beginning the healing process by looking back at, okay, if I've got, some things I would like to have changed in my life. If you had a choice, if someone said to you, you get a wish, and this wish is going to transform your life as it is now. Now, you can still have your being proud of yourself because of your experiences and everything like that, but part of the part of getting that wish fulfilled is you've got to forgive something that you're holding on to. In order to get that wish, you have to, or in order for that wish to manifest, you've got to give up something that you experienced that made you who you are today. You've got to heal that. You've got to let that part go, and you've got to heal that. So in that respect, if you want something, remember there is always an anchor somewhere along the line that's preventing you getting to that. And it may be self-doubt. It may be subconscious negative thoughts eating away at you, telling you, no, you can't have that. Or only the rich get rich and the poor get poorer. And how many times have we heard that? How many times have we seen, people who have come from basically a downtrodden family to being an entrepreneur? They've done it because what they did is they detached in some way. Spiritually, they detached from an element that was their affliction on their family, on their family's livelihood. So because of that, everything transformed. Everything changed. And as a result of that one individual that came into this life, They transformed the path for their family who was stuck. So there are times where one person that comes into your life, don't disavow them, because you may be the person that is, you're going to have a positive change as a result of this person. So hopefully you all have digested that. What's this? Mandy says, I don't just see the point in dwelling on things anymore. I'm at the age now where I am who I am. Love me or hate me. Don't say that. I'm happy in my own skin. It's taken me a long time to learn that, but I can give me the love and attention I need. Anything more from my partner is a bonus. And that is perfect, Mandy. I love the attitude. I really do love your attitude and your outlook, because this is what people don't realize, is that relationships are not meant to complete us. You've got to be complete before you enter a relationship. The relationship is meant to complement your completion, and that is the bonus. So don't be fixated on someone completing your life. If you're feeling lonely and you're looking around, you're getting all these signs of couples around you. It's like a woman when they're trying for a baby, all of a sudden there's this heightened awareness of pregnant women everywhere. Everywhere I look, there's pregnant women. And that's because there's this heightened awareness of pregnancy. And it may be a sign that don't give up. You're going to have this. But something needs to heal first within you. And it might be your attitude. It may not be directly linked to the situation, but you've got to seek it. You've got to think back, okay, if I was to dig up something from my past that got my goat, and even thinking about it today gets my goat. It makes me shudder when I just think about, what I did for this person, or whatever the case might be. Whatever that situation, that's your block. You've got to identify it. Now, you might remove that block, but then all of a sudden you think, okay, let me go back to that situation. Now, how are my feelings? I've released it. I've released it to the universe across all time, space, and everything like that. Now it is gone because it's not meant to be there. It's removed. It's completely eliminated. By saying something like that, or you sort of use your own terminology, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But make sure that across everything from the time it began to the time now, that you have let it go, that you have forgiven it, that it is no longer an issue. It was a learning process you had to experience in some way. So once you do that, and once you've focused on seeing, like you can create a visual. Sometimes when I have a really, stressful day, we all have stressful days. I'm not going to say I don't. I do. Just like anyone else. There are times when I will go in, I'll just stand under the shower and I will close my eyes and I'll visualize that I've got all this hard clay from head to toe covering my entire body. And as the water's running over me, that clay is beginning to break down and run down the drain. And all that clay, all that mud or whatever that is there, is all the negative things that I have absorbed from conversations, from what's come through in readings and everything like that, all through the day. If someone has taken their vent out on me, or they've said something, like just, being a nasty person, if you've had dirty looks from people and you didn't even do anything to them, you're like, what are they looking at? That is attraction. It's like, it's on you in some way because you've carried it. You've acknowledged it. You've acknowledged the dirty look. You've acknowledged the person who is, having a bad day and they're venting at you, like, here, there's your money. Or, if you say, how are you? And they're like, you're all right. Or they just ignore you. Like a checkout operator as an example. She might be in her own little world wondering how she's going to, feed the kids tonight, or, is little Johnny going to be playing up again when I get home? My God, I'm not looking forward to this. Or are my parents really going to start, having a go at me about not performing good in my test results for school and everything like that. You don't know what's going on in that person's mind, but some people do take it very personal, even though it's not personal. So in those cases, just release it before it becomes an anchor. Because if you think about, okay, if I immerse myself in mud every single day and I don't wash it away, and I'm not just saying like have a shower and, do your hair and everything like that. I mean, really focus on that's breaking down. It's going into slush. It's starting to roll off my body. And this is before you even do a proper shower. And it's going down the drain to the nothingness from where it came. It's just gone back into the depths that is not connected to me. I'm above that. So the drain is beneath you and I'm above that. Everything negative is going to go down that drain. And then you visualize that as that water is coming over you and it's starting to remove all that toxic, horrible, hard clay, mud, whatever, that it is starting to bring this beautiful white light around your whole being. It's sealing up all those places where that mud had really stuck in, like your pores and everything like that. And you're becoming enveloped in the light. So you can do that kind of visualization. But if you don't do that, and every single day, like when you go to have a shower, you just do your normal shower, you've still got that clay, you've still got that mud, you're still carrying that from something that has happened, and it builds up and builds up and builds up. It's like a pressure cooker. And then after a while, what happens? You become hard. You become like stone. Your heart, your feelings, your emotions are like stone because you become the mud. And after a while, you think, I'm strong, but at the same time, you're not. You're actually weakening beneath the surface of that. And it's like you've put up the walls around you. So that mud now becomes, this is my space. That's your space. That's my space. You keep out of it. If I'm hurting myself first or putting myself down, even with a sly comment like, gee, you're ugly, or, and you're saying it to yourself. It's like some people get in and hurt themselves before anyone else can do it because they've got that mentality that if I do it, it's not so bad. But if I heard the same words from someone else, would it hurt me? And this is where, again, your angels and guides are always there for you. They are not, this is the thing, they're not going to stop anything happening, but they're going to help you along that process. They're going to help you in your journey. Sometimes once you completely let go of something and just hand it completely over to them, and you've taken your mental hands off the problem, that's the only time they can fully step in and do something. But if you keep trying to pick it up again, it's like the way I describe it. Imagine you're wearing a big brim hat and it's a windy day and you're trying to hold that hat on your head, but the wind, the invisible wind, is trying to move that hat and make it fly away. That's your problem. You're holding on to it. And that problem, while you're holding on to it, if you don't trust where it will land, will still be something that you can retrieve later on if you need to. And who wants to retrieve a problem? Think of that hat as the problem. It's not going to do you any good. It's so tight that it's causing tension migraines. It's causing stress. It's causing you to feel unhealthy. It's just bringing your day down. It's like, I don't even want to get up today because I know I've got to go through this again. If you have that mentality, that attitude, you're holding on to your hat. So you've got to let that wind, the wind being your angels and your guides, let them remove it. Just let them blow that hat off your head. You don't need it. What good is it really doing you anyway? So, you think, okay, well, the visor is great because it's keeping the sun off me, but you need vitamin D. Maybe you need a little sunlight as a result. So the only way that light can touch you is by removing that hat to help you see things clearer. Otherwise, you're going to continually walk under the, that shadow. So The great thing is, many of you, and I'm so pleased to read your comments stating that you are, proud of who you are today, but still think back. If there is something, and it may just be one little thing, one little inkling, it may be being angry at someone for something they did, not necessarily to you, but something they did that has always stayed with you. When you think about it, how did it make you feel? Does it make you hurt? Does it make you feel, I wish I'd done something? I wish I'd stepped in. I wish I'd been more vocal. I wish I'd done whatever. These may all be learning processes, but if you're still somehow affected by that consciously, then you haven't really released it. And that's where you need to start saying, guides, God, angels, take this now. Remove it from me. It doesn't belong to me. I know that. I realize that anger, that frustration, anything negative there doesn't belong to me. And then I give it to you to do what you will in order to make all time, space, and everything in my life transform as a result of removing that blockage. And once you've done that, the doing becomes effortless. It's like you begin to think more clearly. Now, some of the archangels, we think about, Raphael, as I mentioned, he brings healing. He also helps, with not only animals, but humans as well. So, both. Gabriel, he brings strength, and he also helps people express themselves in creative ways. So you might have this sudden urge to paint or draw or to do something that is going to lift your spirits. And that may be that you've been touched by Gabriel. Ariel, so he actually is focused with the elements here. So we're talking about earth, water, sky being the wind, and everything, fire. And when he gets into a person's life by a person calling upon him, that's Ariel, he brings in healing through all the elements. So basically he can, take more control in helping you heal something in your life that, may be holding you back. So there's no harm in asking them to step in. Zadkiel, I've had to make notes here. He's compassion, and he also helps you to move on. So Zadkiel is the one that basically is there to help you, when you are having trouble moving forward in your life. You can call upon him and say, look, I really feel stuck. I need to move out of this situation. I need to have an exit, a detour. Please help me. Please show me the way. Now, in help, it's more of a guidance help that comes through. Michael, who everyone knows is one of the highest, he actually brings the protection, and he focuses on the love and everything like that. So he can protect you from evil. He can be the one that stands guard at your door. So you can ask him, please, until this, this situation that, is bad in my life is gone, please stand guard. Secure us, protect us, wrap your arms around us. Don't let evil enter our hearts or our mind. Don't let it win over us, in other words, or my home. Then we have, I can't even read my own writing, Camille, I think it is. He deals with relationships, self-love and compassion. So in cases where you are feeling that, relationships can do better, then you can actually ask for him to come through and to sort of help heal those little tiny wounds that, are preventing things from communication and stuff like that, and also bringing more so the self-love within you. Sometimes you'll have this epiphany of being very proud of yourself for doing something. And that's his presence. That is a part of his presence as well. And then finally, we've got Uriel. They bring clarity, and they also clear that confusion, of course, in relationships and in your path. So sometimes if you're confused about what to do and you've got this really big decision to make, you can ask your archangels to come through and to help you in making better choices and bringing clarity, so that you can see what has to be done. So remember, they can only help you a part of the way, but you've got to also help yourself. So thank you very much for being here tonight. I hope that this has helped you. And I can see that the other comments are, what's this? Crystal says, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to finish watching this tomorrow. I'm drifting off, bless your heart. Well, it's 11 o'clock, 5 minutes past here in Sydney. Wherever you're watching from, thank you. And what I might actually do is upload this to YouTube so that, we can get more out there for people. I normally don't, but in this case, what's the problem in doing so? But I hope it's helped you, and God bless. I hope your path is everything that you have designed in a positive way. So have a great week, and I will see you. Now, because I've done a live stream tonight, I know that this is like cheating, but I may not do another live stream until next Wednesday, because I don't find that I had to have people that I had tonight or today anyway, because of my stupid migraine, had to have them transferred into other days and everything like that. So just to sort of like keep with the flow of every Wednesday, next Wednesday we'll do the live stream. So hope you had a great night, hope you enjoyed the talk, and I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.